It's a pretty old problem, so there's already a lot of information on it. So this this meeting, this seminar will be a little more interactive than my previous seminar. So first of all, I want to know how many of you all know about obesity in general, like the conditions that require obesity. Like, how do you know that you are obese? This is a question I'm asking someone.
ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್. ನಮಗೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ನಾವು ದಪ್ಪ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ನಮಗೆ ತೂಕ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ? ಯಾವಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು?
ಹೈಟ್ ಟು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು
ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋ ಮುಂಚೆ ಹೈಟ್ ಟು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ದಪ್ಪ ಫೀಲ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ?
ಅಲ್ಲ, that BMI rating and that is within 25 ಆದ್ರೆ we are not obese ಅಂತ. That is the one measure. Height to weight.
ಐಡಲ್ ವೇಟ್ ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
When you are on more weight and having weight concern, as well as when you feel more tired and you will be not able to do some kind of work, and also in that case when you are not feeling anything to do, in that case we tell them, like if they are overweight also, we tell them that they are obese and so they need to reduce their weight.
You will feel very lazy and you are not able to have your day-to-day activities when you are obese. Especially children.
ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ಇದ್ರೆ obese ಅಂತ.
When I was not fitting into my old dresses, I was obese.
So yes, all of you have given good indicators of obesity. But the one that is used by doctors to diagnose obesity is indeed both BMI index and the BMR index. So BMI is your body mass index, and like Miss said, it is really your weight to height ratio, but it's not exactly that. There's a little bit of a formula. So to calculate BMI, you must take your weight in kilograms and divide it by your height in meters squared. So for example, say you have a weight of 70 kilograms and a height of 170 centimeters, right? So first you have to convert the centimeters to meters. So you get 1.7 meters of height, right? And then you do 70 upon 1.7 squared, which gives you an approximate value of about 24.2 as your BMI index. Now, for obese people, the official rating is that your BMI is 30 or above, right? And so if you calculate your BMI and you're 30 or above, you're considered obese. If you're between 25 and 29, then you're considered overweight, not obese, but overweight. Right? So obesity officially starts at 30, but people at 25 are also considered unhealthily large. And now, why on earth are we talking about obesity for children? Like, children are some of the healthiest people, and you usually don't see any obese children nowadays. But it's becoming an issue. It's not like it doesn't exist. There are obese children all around the world, particularly in the Western world, as that's where childhood obesity was first started. Because the reasons why childhood obesity happened is that there's really four main effects that cause childhood obesity. The first idea is that outdated survival mechanisms. So back in the past, when a country was in its less developed stage, right? People were living in villages, and in villages, the child mortality rate, that is the number of children that died before reaching the age 5, was very high because of lack of food security. The granaries would only last if the weather was good and the harvest season was good. But if there was a bad harvest season, there would be famine and lots of death in children, right? So, in order to compensate for this, childhood mortality, parents began feeding their children extra in order to, help build up their fat reserves so that in the case of a famine, they are less likely to die from starvation, right? But after industrialization, which takes only a couple of years to happen, right? Food security greatly improved, and there was a lot more food available, a lot more variety of food, and it was very safe, and the harvest season was practically guaranteed to be good, right? Which means that now there's an abundance of food, but the mindset was still there. I must feed my children more to prevent them from dying during a famine. So parents would still let their children overeat in a time when they didn't need to overeat, and that would lead to them, facing the issue of childhood obesity. Another issue is that kids eat too much at an early age. Now, this isn't more of a parents encouraging kids, but more of parents neglecting what their kids are eating. See, children are are little small children, right? They're children. They don't have the ability to know stuff. So when we talk about any children that and why they're having health issues, most of it come down to the parents, because the parents are really responsible for supervision and ensuring their kids don't gain any unhealthy habits. Now, with all of this, McDonald's, Wendy's, and other fast food restaurants and other quick food schemes that have come thanks to industrialization, we're seeing more and more kids eating more and more calories in an unhealthy way than ever before. And this is leading to increased number of children with childhood obesity. Again, this is not really kids. This is not parents encouraging their kids to eat more healthy food. This is parents neglecting their kids eating eating more unhealthy food. That's the difference between the first and second point. The third point is that kids lacked physical activity. See, computers and devices in general are relatively new, right? They only came about in like the early 2010s, which means that they came extremely quickly. So there hasn't been enough time for our society to adapt to the changes that uh, electronic devices would bring. One of the main issues with this is that we haven't see phones and basically any form of content on a device, it's engineered to keep the viewer engaged. That's how these websites like YouTube or Twitter or social media, that's how they make money. Every time you view a post, they gain a little bit because they send advertisements, and whenever you watch an advertisement, money gets sent to them. Right? That's how they're what. So they've engineered their entire program, their entire website just to keep you engaged. And if it works against a mature adult mind, you can imagine the effect it has on a young child's mind. Like, at least an adult might not be interested in half of the stuff, but a child whose imagination goes through the roof would be interested in everything on the site. And this is why the devices are extremely addictive towards kids, way more than it is towards adults. In fact, um, scientists recommend that children below the age of 2 should not have any screen time at all, because it would lead to adverse health effects for the children. Now, when children do get addicted, they have more reasons to stay at home and play games than they do to go outside and play games. There's many reasons, and pretty valid reasons as well. For example, online you can make more friends than you can make in real life. It's easier to make friends online than it is real life. There's more games, more play. You can, like, in real life you can just pretend to be a princess, but in the game world you can be a princess, you can command a nation, right? So there's more avenues for creativity, there's more avenues for learning. Devices are basically the go-to addiction for children. These are valid reasons. However, they're stopping kids from going outside and playing. This lack of physical activity leads to their basal metabolic rate lowering immensely. And this lowering of the basal metabolic rate leads to people, or well, children in general, having more the same like say they have the same carb intake, so they're eating the same food, but they're not exercising as much or really running around as much. Then the excess food that used to be constant for them will start becoming fat for them, and they begin to grow weight and they become obese. Final and well least common cause is genetic inheritance. Oftentimes there's a medical condition that, see, the amount of insulin that you produce, the amount of fat you produce, the amount of glycogen you produce, the amount of sugar that you use during your time away, all of that is controlled by your genetics. That's what everything in your body is really controlled by. Your genes are the blueprint for your body, including its usage levels. And some people will have a mutation that either makes them store more fat or use less sugar. Now, these mutations are very rare and they don't really happen that often. But when they do, an entire lineage, the entire family from parent to grandchildren, will have an issue where they will be obese by simply existing because of their genes. Another interesting thing is that if you look at Indian history during the British, you'll see a lot of famines happened, where the British conveniently took the food away from the people, and that led to people starving. There's a theory that because of this, these famines perpetrated by the British, um, Indians who didn't have the genes to store fat died from starvation, while those that did have the genes to store fat survived. And this led to a slow, accidental, selective not breathing, breeding of Indians to have genes that make them more susceptible to storing fat. It's just a theory at this point, but it's a leading theory as to why Indians in general have such a high risk of getting pot belly. Pot belly is essentially like, despite eating so little, despite having a normal life, you still gain that fatness in your belly for really no reason. You'll see a lot of elder people in Indian society will be not really that thin. They're not the Kareena Kapoors of the world, right? They're more of like a thick ones. So that is caused by pot belly, and the primary theory for why that happens is the British. So another thing to blame the British on. So, enough talking about causes. Let's talk about the issue. Why should you care if your child is getting obese? Well, the first and most important reason is that obesity is a disease. You should not forget that. Obesity leads to things like chronic arthritis and respiratory issues, right? Now, I want you to think, right? So, why on earth do you think obese people are more likely to get arthritis or respiratory issues? Question, please answer.
Because they take a lot of weight. I mean, you can see the pressure on the bone, and that is where the cartilage wears out, and then even the bone will wear out, and you will have the problems of arthritis.
Yep, good answer, good answer. That is the primary reason. The extra weight from all that fat is being put directly onto your joints, which are not made for such amount of weight, and hence they begin to get damaged. And as we learned in our inflammation session, a little bit of damage leads to inflammation, which causes more damage that leads to arthritis. Now, think, an adult's bones are not able to handle the extra weight, right? And they're mature, designed to handle, increasing levels of weight, right? So then what about children whose joints are still developing? They're not even fully complete, not even fully done. They're just developing, and suddenly you've put a whole lot of extra weight onto them. What do you think would happen to their joints?
Their movement will be restricted, and they keep sitting and they don't do any playing around.
And
That's
more importantly, that is true, but also their bones get even more damaged than what an adult's bones would. And see, a child is an extremely fragile body. all right? And when they get damaged, their body goes into haywire, right? Unlike a adult, which will just slowly repair the body, the child's body is constantly building new things. And so once it recognizes damage, it will send a whole bunch of cells in order to repair the damage, right? Because they have a lot more stem cells than us adults, well, not us, but you adults have, because I'm still a child, right? Um, so because of this, okay, children will have an early onset of arthritis, specifically joint and bone arthritis, because of the extra weight, and it will be much earlier and much more severe than adults, thanks to their early development. And also, they'll have respiratory issues like asthma. See, a lot of that weight will not only go onto your stomach, it'll go also onto your chest, onto your hands, onto your thighs, basically anywhere that can store fat, right? And it's because of this, especially on the chest, that the extra weight is not only being put on your bones, it's also being put on your lungs. Your lungs have to now push harder in order to expand and contract. Your diaphragm has to push harder. And this leads to your lungs not having, like children's lungs, not being able to expand and contract properly, especially during the early years when they're still growing. Again, a child's lungs are still growing by the age of 5, right? So an early onset of childhood obesity would severely restrict this growth and lead to people, having to constantly cough and like struggle to open up their lungs and get the fresh air inside. All of this really paints a dark picture for children. I mean, they're so fragile and yet they're being absolutely brutalized by their own eating habits. Um, Another issue is that, as you know, when you eat, when you obesity is caused by eating a lot of food, and a lot of food has sugar. Now, can anyone tell me what happens when you eat too much sugar on a regular basis? Like what specific disease that is really common among old people happens because primarily of an excess uh, consumption of high sugary foods and products.
I think it is diabetes. Just now we spoke about it.
Yep, it's diabetes, and especially for children. Um, See, when our ancestors came into the world, we were tiny little like globules of useless matter that were just sitting around waiting to grow up. Right? That's really what a child is at this point, early in its life. Right? So,
But it is
in order
most loved, Aditya.
yeah, they are loved. It's because we are such children are such useless globules of matter that us as human beings have evolved the ability to love them in order to protect these useless globules of matter. Otherwise, they'll get eaten by some animal across the way, right? So these useless globules of matter will just they need to grow up to become less useless globules of matter really quickly. And how will they do that? Well, they need a lot of energy. And in order to get a lot of energy, they need a lot of sugar. So children have an intense love for sugar for this reason. You'll see a child will give up their soul to eat a bunch of chocolate if they want. Why? Because it's in their genes. Their genes are telling them, you want that sugar, get that sugar, get that sugar, right? And it's because of this
There is one
environmental,
person who is
well,
smiling here in Tulsi's profile. Let us also talk to him. When you said yes, the gene is asking, so he's all happy. He can ask his amma and papa to give more. Is it?
yeah, but
Vishnu?
And the question will be something, it is not me, Papa. My gene is asking, get me the chocolate.
Look at him smiling because these are two different friends from different cities, but agreeing with the same fact. He's nodding his head throughout. So, hey, hi, Vishnu, right?
Sanjeeva auntie.
Yeah?
My name is Sanjeeva.
Sanjeeva, hey Sanjeeva, do you agree? Yeah. So next time when Appa says no chocolate, you'll say no, 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 Appa, I'm not asking. It's my gene which is asking, huh?
That's why in his jeans he carries in both the pockets. Okay, Aditya. I think sorry we are interrupting Aditya.
No, it's fine. But yeah, continuing on this point, because children eat a lot of sugary foods and it's in their genes, right? It also leads to them when they're, having one of the causes, such as eating too much, they eat too much sugar. And because they're eating too much sugar, they develop type 2 diabetes, right? Because of this type 2 diabetes, they'll have an early onset of diabetes, which leads to a lot of issues later in life, right? Diabetes is not just something that you can live with just insulin shots. It is still slowly killing your body. It's just that diabetes is like a very slow killer that can be staved off with insulin, right? Insulin shots. So when you get an early onset of diabetes, it leads to a much lower life expectancy than if you got, say, a later onset of diabetes or a normal onset. And this leads to issue. The fourth, uh, you know, issue caused by, or no, not fourth. The third issue caused by your obesity, right? That is premature death. Children who have childhood obesity are less likely to make it past the age of, like the working ages, that is, the age of 20 to 30, compared to other people because they are so unhealthy at this point. As a young child, they have endured the stresses that that old people experience on a daily basis, right? And their young, fragile bodies cannot take the combined stresses of diabetes, of arthritis, of respiratory issues, all compounding on each other on their tiny little bodies that really cannot handle all of this. That's why we pamper our kids and protect them, because they're really fragile little bodies that really cannot handle so much stress. And it's because of this that children with childhood obesity, or is unregulated childhood obesity, that do not get their care in time, will experience premature death, where they die at a younger age compared to the country average. And this leads to, on this note, we'll continue to our next thing. Now, all three of these things that I've told are physical issues caused by what do you call it? Diabetes. Not diabetes, obesity, childhood obesity. But there's also one final issue that we'll deal with, and that is your mental issue. When a person, now we live in a society where celebrities are considered beautiful based on their thinness. I mean, you don't see any thick Kareena Kapoors in the world, or any thick Bollywood celebrities. We live in a world that decides beauty based on your how fat you are. And it's because of this that children with childhood obesity will have an extreme mental downgrade, in the fact that they'll now be considered obese and ugly at a younger age. And this will lead to bullying, this will lead to issues with their academic performance, lead to discrimination, all at an early age when they should be making friends and establishing social relations that are extremely important at a young age. And yet, because of their childhood obesity, they're not getting that opportunity to make friends, to develop social skills. And it's because of this that they gain body dysmorphia and and consequently eating disorders. And eating disorder is essentially a disorder, right? It's a disorder that happens to people in order to, like, how do I explain this? So, for example, let's take the common eating disorder of anorexia. Anorexia happens when a person decides that they're eating, like they feel like they've eaten too much calories after their mealtime. And so they will voluntarily expel the food that they've just eaten in lunch or in dinner or in breakfast into, like, out. So they purposefully vomit it out. This leads to excessive malnutrition and excessive thinning, as well as a lot of stress onto the esophagus and respiratory system, as vomiting, because when you vomit, you're not only expelling the food, you're also expelling the hydrochloric acid inside your stomach that's supposed to be digesting the food. So when you expel hydrochloric acid multiple times over, all over, for years together, then you get excessive chemical damage on your esophagus, and you also vomiting also has the chance of putting food inside your lungs, which will lead to various respiratory diseases. So eating disorders are essentially very fatal illnesses that are associated with disturbances in your eating behavior because of thoughts and emotions. One is arthritis, anorexia, and there are others that, for example, some people just starve themselves; they don't eat anything. So they're a little bit better than anorexic patients in that they don't vomit out the food after they've eaten it; they just don't eat it. But it's still bad because they're still gaining malnutrition and excessive amount. And this is happening to kids. Kids are going out of their way to vomit their food out or just not eat in general because they don't like how fat they are. Then they don't. And all of this is just like unsupervised medical treatment, which is extremely dangerous for the children and will lead to even more issues later in life, which is honestly a very sad, very helpless idea that happens to children all around the world globally. Uh, Childhood obesity is one of the leading killers of, and oftentimes it is these eating disorders that are the final blow for these children. Now, with this sad note, we will begin the solutions. So, our first solution is weight management. Remember, it's the excess weight that is the disease. It is not really the effect. The effects of the disease are what's killing you, but it's the weight that is causing the effects. So, weight management is essentially putting a stop on your weight gain. So, oftentimes, medical professionals will put a diet where you're not losing weight. So, weight management in the medical sense is a little different from weight management in the common person sense. So, common person sense, weight management is reduction of weight to an ideal weight. But in weight management and medically, it's more of stopping your weight gain until your height can, increase to the point that your BMI lowers from 30 to below 25 or the normal range, right? The second solution is increased physical activity. As we said, children are too preoccupied on their phones, on their computers, on their tablets, so they need to get outside and do physical activity. We're not talking about exercise. Children don't do exercise. They do, you know, they go and run, play tag. They play hide and seek. They play tag, hide and seek. They play tug of war. They punch each other. I don't know. I don't know what children do, right? So they do activities, not exercise, but activities that they have fun. Because unlike exercise, these activities not only increase your metabolic rate, they also build social connections, begin to, develop those skills inside the minds of the children, and really just help the children later in life. The fourth, the no, the fifth solution is food monitoring, right? Children need to eat, right? When they eat, you must make sure they're eating the correct stuff. So be like my mom and only eat McDonald's once every year, right? And that will ensure that your child does not get too much of the unhealthy fats in their body, right? It is up to remember, children are young, they are minors, they don't have the mental capabilities to understand the scope of the issue they're in. So it's up to parents and doctors and medical authorities to ensure that the children remain healthy. It is your job, okay? Not my job, okay? I'm just here to tell you all, but it's up to you to take action and ensure that your kids are not getting obesity, right? Fourth and most important is that you should visit your doctor. Some people will just see a lightly thick a child and be like, they're very obese. Let's start weight management. Let's start physical activity. No, first go to a doctor. The BMI index has some limitations. For example, there are some kids who have a higher body mass for their height, right? But that's because they have more muscles at a young age than a normal child would. This does happen, okay? It's not like some fantasy, right? It does happen. And for those people, doing excessive work and excessive weight management will just lead to malnutrition rather than to any form of correct BMI. So go to your doctor. They know a lot more tools. They'll do a lot more tests. They'll do blood glucose levels, cholesterol levels, fat levels. They'll check everything and then they'll tell you what to do. Then go to a pediatric nutritionist. These are nutritionists, people who study nutrition for children, right? They will tell you what is the best food diet, what's the best food plate you must have for your children. Every child is different. Some children need more vitamins, some children need more minerals, some children are underweight and need more fat, right? It's different for every child, and so you must go ahead and get it checked with the doctor. All right, the doctors and your health coaches are
Aditya,
extremely important.
Aditya, very rightly said, but in between some points I would like to add.
Yes.
Moreover, predominantly in India, our approach was for any body related issue, we used to go to only one window, that was medical experts or the doctors. But the weight philosophy, as far as weight is concerned, it is more of body's metabolic requirements, and as you rightly said, it is craving for sugar and our lifestyle, which is impacting our kids also. So more than the doctor here, wellness coaches play the major role, because in our community, if you see, people could the doctor ke bache, I mean people who are kids of their doctors, they are also obese. We have seen that issue here. And but when their lifestyle started changing, kids started following it, nutrition philosophy was followed properly. That is when the result has started. I totally agree. If at all it has fallen to the disease level, then we have to immediately consult the doctor and see, take the immediate remedy as far as injections, medicines are concerned. But for obese kid, doctor cannot give any solution. They'll say, ಕುಚ್ ಅಚ್ಚ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ತಿನ್ಸಿ ಮಗುಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಓಡಿಸಿ ಮಗುನ, ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿರೋದು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಾನು. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದ ನಂತರ ಬಿರ್ರಿ ಎಕ್ಸಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಹತ್ರ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಡೋಸೇಜ್ ಇಂದ ಸರಿ ಹೋಗುವಂಥ ಮ್ಯಾಟ್ರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. And that was excellent, Aditya. And also, almost the time is coming to closure. So, can we have the closure note? Because the amazing session, people have to share their feedback also.
Yeah, I was about to be done. This was literally my last point, visiting the doctor, pediatric nutrition, or health coach.
Yeah, but that is not or. It has to be, according to me,
Okay.
doctors do not have any role to play over there in obesity, as far as obesity is concerned, because India has got highest number of medical colleges in the entire world today. But obesity is not under control. So that shows that statistics, that more than the medical expertise here, lifestyle coaching is what matters. Because directly parents are responsible for kids obesity, and later on DNA, genetics, these things also matter. But when the 70% lifestyle predominates, then 25% genetic issue can be overcome. See, 2.3 crore kids in India are malnourished and they are obese. So this is the data which recently one health survey article was released. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, Aditya.
Okay, so as Ravi rightly said, while doctors are indeed good for remedying issues, they're not really good for the early indications. That is your parents, that is your community who helps you with that. So your community is also very important for you. Oftentimes, what children eat and what they do is not only based on what you eat and do, also what they see other people eating and doing, right? And what other people eating and doing comes down to community. So it's not only you who has to change your habits to save your kid, it's also the community. And it's this community that's often being periodically helped out by people like wellness coaches, by people like health coaches. These people are also there. They will give a more personal, a more the more immediate uh like help for obese kids, because they have the experience, they have the personal affiliation, they have the empathy to empathize with that kid and understand that this is not a throwaway issue, not a number on a keypad, but this is a child who needs help in order to get rid of bad habits that they have, right? So it's with this that I really bring it to a conclusion. So obese children is one of the leading causes of death for children all around the world. And it's because of this that many issues happen to children, and uh, many injuries happen to their fragile bodies, which lead to really sad issues like body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and other sad issues that happen to children at an early age. It is up to really us and the community to prevent this from happening to our children. Say. And this really is the crux of our life. So it's with this that I end this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adi. God bless you. Very nice. Very nice. Very information what you have provided. It's really, as you said, it's your responsibility. Your responsibility. Yes. Everyone's responsibility it is. Thank you so much. ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗ್ಲಪ್ಪ.
Thank you so much, Adi. Yes,
Thank you.
yes, over to you, Rajeshwari. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ thank you ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
Can I add one point, Manasa?
ರಾಜೇಶ್ವರಿ ಏನ್ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ?
Manasa
ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Yes, Manasa.
Yes, yes. You can add, Prabha ma'am.
No, what I was feeling is, ನಮ್ಮ Indian context ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ family system ಅಲ್ಲಿ, and of course the opinions are changing and even the practices are changing. ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಹುಡುಗಿರು ಸಣ್ಣಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಬೆಳ್ಳಿಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಹುಡುಗರು ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. And of course that is how the nature has made us. But when girls are not slim and obey, and they become obese, note one thing, their reproductive organ is the first thing that gets affected, and that is hormonal imbalances will start, and that is where we have more concerns to be worried about, because the whole function of the girl child or girls or women is to reproduce. That's one of their what we say, the built-in ability, and that we have to preserve for our communities to grow. And child obesity in girls is more serious than the obesity in boys. Of course, obesity is a serious concern, but see, the lives that get affected is multiplied with the girls than the boys. That is what. Manasa, you can close it, or we'll take it into the next step.
Yes, surely. As rightly said, Rajeshwari, Prabha ma'am ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ, absolutely. And Adi, yes, exactly. As many facts that you informed us, there are many studies where where they make it more tempting, they make it more better. And surely there is a solution here which Rajeshwari will be concluding with us. So ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಮನೇಲಿ, how many of us have heard of ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೇಳಿ ಯಾರು ಮನೇಲಿ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ one line ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿ ರಾಜೇಶ್ವರಿ. Over to you.
You're low, Manasa.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ ನಾ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು?
Very low.
No, we can hear you, Mansa.
Rajesh, I could hear. Rajesh,
Yes, we could hear.
She told who all are under nutrition at in the families here, and then we can conclude relating to the benefits.
Exactly. That's where. How many of us? Is my voice audible now? Yeah.
Yes, Mansa, we can hear you.
Thank you. So there are many people at home, especially Adi's cousins also do have this take support of Herbalife Nutrition's Dino Shake. So we have Ekansh. I could see that Ekansh on the screen. So, but then I couldn't talk to him. Hey Ekansh, do you have Dino Shake? Ekansh, good morning. Hey, unmute, bro.
Yes. Say, we drink Dino
Oh,
Shake?
you're watching on the Mola. Okay, you liked what Adi Bhaiya said?
Yes.
Okay, what did you like out of what Adi said? What do you call him? Adi Anna, Adi Bhaiya, what do you call him?
What do you call it?
Huh? Adi Anna. Adi Anna. Wow. So what did Adi Anna say which you loved the most?
What did you learn? Okay. So
Okay, Adi, you like Dino Shake, Ekansh?
So how do you feel dino shake when you feel
Which
strong?
flavor do you like, chocolate or strawberry?
Sometimes I drink chocolate and sometimes I drink strawberry.
Okay, which one do you like the most?
Both.
Both. Oh my God. Come here. Hold your hand like this. And pinch. Oh my God. Even I love chocolate. I love strawberry. You know? That's amazing. So equally we love both. So have you seen any changes? Have you stopped eating a bit of biscuits and junk? You
No.
ask Amma less of
I will
junk.
change the question for him, Mansa. So I will ask him, why do you drink the dino shake? What you want to become when you grow up? What you told me?
To become Spider-Man
And
and superhero.
superhero. How the superheroes are?
To fly.
And they are strong.
Yes.
Right? So you are drinking dino shake because
To
become strong.
strong.
Yes.
Lovely. You'll become like dinosaur. Very strong. Okay. So that's how all of us, this is how we can. So I think ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದರ್ಶ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಖುಷಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರನೂ ಮಾತಾಡಿಸಬಹುದು. But surely right now it would be difficult. Ravi, I think you can stop.